This week we are off to a town where I've never game hunted before, and unbeknownst to me, it turns out this might be the greatest CX I have ever been to, and I don't say that lightly. Trust me, this is amazing.
Game pickup! Building the game room! Run tricks! Live game hunting! Oh yeah!
Hello again folks and welcome back to another video, and this week we are off to a town which I haven't been to for absolutely years, but I got a tip off it would be a good place to go for a game hunt of a good friend, so I had some time and I knew it was time to make the visit. So this week we are off to Kings Lynn. It's only around an hour from Norwich, but it's been absolutely years since I've been there and I was not prepared for how good this hunt was. I went in with absolutely no idea what it was going to be like and I was blown away. It is one of the best game hunts I've had in absolutely years, and I'm going to put money and say now I think this is the best CX I've ever been to. The pickups today are incredible. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you'll know I'm trying to complete my own personal 20 in 2022 video game challenge, which is picking up the 20 most needed games for my collection this year. But I have to find them in the wild, no eBay, etc. I will link that video in the description below if you haven't seen it. But exciting news, this week I find not one, but 2 games off that list. And as it is now in October, we are getting to the end of the year and time is running out. But I think I can still find these games by the end of the year. Just before we head off to Kings Lynn, I just want to remind you folks, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe. So I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5 and I really want you folks along for the ride. And be a part of the conversation. Comment down below, let me know what you think of the video, let me know your opinions, good or bad. I just love talking to you folks. Here we are then at that very unassuming looking CX, but from the outside you can tell this is a pretty large store. But trust me, I was not prepared for how good this CX was going to be. Like, even looking in the outside windows, there was nothing that looked that exciting to really entice you in, but boy, was I in for a shock. So here we are then at the promised land, and one important thing to take into consideration, this is all video games. This store has an upstairs and that is where they keep the DVDs, so everything you can see on the shelf here is all video games. I was in heaven. The first port of call was, of course, the Gamecube section, and finally, a game I have been looking for absolutely months. That's right, folks, I had finally found it. Star Fox Assault, boxed and complete for the Gamecube. So happy. Sticking in the Gamecube section, they had a pretty good selection here. Obviously, I took the best of the best, being Star Fox Assault, but there was another game here which I have been looking for quite a while. This is quite a random one. This is NBA Courtside 2002, and if you didn't know, this is actually an exclusive game for the Gamecube. Of course, I had to pick this up. It's super cheap, and being able to add an exclusive game you can only play on the Gamecube for just £4 is kind of a no-brainer. Today had already been a good day, adding one game for my 20 in 2022 games challenge, but was I about to add another game? Yes, I was. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for the Nintendo Switch. This is a game which is getting harder and harder to find. Super happy to finally find a copy. This CX had one of the best selections of PlayStation 1 games I have seen in a long while. The condition of these was absolutely incredible, and there was some real top titles here. And I knew I had to pick up at least one of these, just if nothing else, the condition was fantastic. But the one that really stood out for me was Wing Commander. This thing is the big box 4-disc version and was in amazing condition. And this is a game you do not see very often, so I had to pick this one up. This is one of those CX stores where I could have spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and I'd already picked up quite a stack of games, but let me know, would you have picked up The Evil Dead for the PlayStation 1 for 20 quid? I was very tempted by this, but sadly had to leave it behind. Of course, I had to have a look in the glass case. I can't believe they had a boxed copy of Smash Bros, Game Gear games. Not the best selection of Mega Drive games, but that is the only bad thing I would say about this CX. They did have some Pokemon games, of course, and a couple of Game Gear games, but I think this store was really about the other game sections. It is definitely getting harder in 2022 to find new Wii U games I need to add to my collection, but let me know as I'm scrolling across these games if there's any game you would have picked up for your Wii U collection. Final thing before we head off and leave behind this amazing CX, I never knew there was a Biker Mice from Mars game on the PlayStation 2, so let me know in the comments down below, firstly, if you're a fan of the cartoon and if you ever played this PlayStation 2 game. I think we can all agree that CX was absolutely amazing, and I could have probably happily ended the hunt right there, but there's charity shops around and it'd be rude not to. So, into the first one, nothing really too noteworthy here, but it is worth noting it's worth picking up this Xbox Live Arcade disc, as a lot of these games are normally download only, and of course, as they get taken off the service over the years, it's worth having them on a disc. Here we go then, next charity shop, an inevitable wall of DVDs. It was £5 for £1 here, so I did have a good look, but sadly there was nothing to pick up. But that's the thing, when there's games hiding on the top shelf, you always have to check, you don't miss that gem. Speaking of gems, the next charity shop along was an absolute find. It was full of like kind of vintage retro toys and all of the awesome stuff you want to see on a hunt. You had TMNT, vintage toys, a little bit of everything. I was super excited to jump straight into this one. This was definitely one of those charity shops that kind of knew what they were doing. They looked like they'd picked the very best kind of retro and vintage stuff to have in their store, and they were charging a premium, but there was some super cool bits in here, and I just loved seeing them if nothing else. If I hadn't have spent quite so much in CX just 5 or 10 minutes before, I would have probably spent a lot more money in this store. So I will be definitely heading back here in a future date to go through and definitely pick up some more stuff. It did pain me leaving behind all this awesome TMNT stuff, but I'll be back. This store did also have the world's smallest video game selection, and it was kind of weird that they put these PlayStation 3 games in long DVD boxes. I don't know why, it just looked super weird to me, but yeah, it was mainly sports games. We did have a Guitar Hero game, but nothing really to write home about here, so I think I should definitely focus on the toys rather than the games. Of course, this being a charity shop in 2022, they did have a massive selection of DVDs, but one thing you do not see as much these days is VHS tapes and vintage wrestling VHS tapes. I could not believe how many vintage wrestling VHS tapes there was in this one store, including, if you were a wrestling fan in the late 90s, who remembers these Divas videotapes? These were essentially softcore porn. They were pretty cringeworthy, but other than that, there was some absolutely fantastic wrestling VHS tapes in here, including this one which really stood out to me, one of the British Invasion tapes from back in the day. The sad thing was though, these were all about £4. If these had been cheaper, I would have been tempted to have grabbed all of these. So many times I've tried to quit collecting VHS tapes, and I really don't want to fall back off the wagon of collecting them, but these were the most tempted I've been for a long while to really get back into collecting VHS tapes. But let me know, do you still collect VHS tapes, and even more, do you collect wrestling ones? This is the problem with game hunting in a town you've never been to before. You never know what is round the corner. And sadly, I'd spent a lot of money already in CX, so I was not prepared for when I went round the corner and found Retro Retreat. This store was absolutely incredible. I was blown away. The first thing I saw when I entered the door was this absolutely huge selection of Disney Infinity figures. I don't think I've ever seen this many Disney Infinity figures in one place. But the thing that really caught my eye was their boxed N64 games. Y'all know by now I have a real soft spot for boxed N64 games, and there was such a good selection in here. There was so many I'd love to add into my collection, and they're in such good condition, especially that boxed controller. That looked super nice. 50 quid I think is a good deal. They also had some of the kind of lower end boxed N64 games, kind of your V-Rallies, your football games. Of course your F1 Grand Prix, always a nice cheap one to pick up if you ever see it. As you can see, £10 there, and it was in really nice condition. They also had loads of loose carts, which I am kind of straying away from picking up the loose carts now, trying to go more for the box. They did have some really nice bits in here. It is probably one of the biggest selections of boxed and loose N64 stuff I've seen for a long while. Talking of Nintendo, they also had a really large selection of SNES stuff, including one of the most yellow SNES consoles I've ever seen, but it was priced accordingly. They also had loads and loads of loose SNES games, which again, I am trying to kind of stop picking up as many loose games, so it was really nice to see some more box stuff, including that big box Super Mario Kart, which I know very little about. So if you know anything about that, please let me know down in the comments below. I was very tempted to pick up NBA Jam box. I can't believe the Chaos Engine is £100, but I think the MVP here was definitely this copy of Lethal Enforcers with the gun. As a light gun fan, that is a thing of absolute beauty with a big price tag nonetheless. Speaking of Nintendo, again, they did have a lot of loose NES games. Again, I am trying to go for the box stuff a bit more, but this would be a fantastic way to boost the collection. Again, big name titles here, such as Jurassic Park, Castlevania. Got some box stuff as well. I was quite tempted again by some of these. Next up, we had the boxed Game Boy Advance games. And again, I don't think I've seen this bigger selection of boxed Game Boy Advance games for a long while. Again, a real mix of titles here, some absolute classics and some kind of cheaper games. So whatever your budget, you could always be picking up something boxed for your collection. One thing I didn't get nearly enough time to go through was the huge selection of PS1 games. This is just a very small selection. One case out of the 5 or 6 cases I had of just PlayStation games. I did have a quick peruse for the PlayStation 2 section, and this jumped out at me. This copy of SOCOM US Navy SEALs, which comes with the headset. I haven't seen this in absolutely years. It was in fantastic condition, and for £3.75 I had to pick this up. I love the oddities added into the collection, especially when you can add them in on a cheap budget, so this one for me was a no-brainer. Again, I know I keep saying this, but this is the biggest selection of this time's strategy guides I have seen for absolutely ages, and some of the titles here, I was absolutely blown away. Like that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 guide, that's incredible. This Nintendo magazine with No More Heroes on the cover, that is incredible. Some of these were quite pricey, but I have said it many times before. Some of these strategy guides are only going to go up in value and start to get really expensive. Like, you may think that is a lot of money for a Dino Crisis 2 guide, but I would probably pay that as a collector. It's one of my favourite games of all time, so I'd be happy to pay that. But there were some really cheap guides here as well. Again, I will be coming back to this store and diving in a little bit deeper, as we were racing against time and time was running out. Retro Retreat had an absolutely incredible selection of boxed and complete consoles. Like, I have not seen a PlayStation 1 box in that good a condition for so long, as well as some oddities like this weird stickered up PlayStation 1. Obviously, you had all the more recent consoles, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, a little bit of everything. I think that's a cool thing about this store. They literally had everything from like brand new up-to-date PlayStation 5s to retro, such as this Mega CD 2, which one day I will have in my collection. Tons of handhelds. This Master System 2 complete in the box was in really nice condition, and for 85 quid I think that is a bit of a steal. And next to that was this really nice Super Mario World arcade machine. Here we have what I think could possibly be my favourite PlayStation 3 box. The Grand Theft Auto 5 edition of the PlayStation 3 is a thing of beauty. Finally, going through the massive Wii section, I found a game which I haven't seen for absolutely years, Silent Hill Shattered Memories. And you may think £37 is a lot for a Wii game, but that, for this game, is a very good deal. If I had not spent so much money in CEX earlier in the day, I would have definitely picked this up. I was feeling a little bit regretful. So folks, this was Retro Retreat in Kings Lynn in Norfolk, and trust me, I will be coming back again. I have only just touched the surface of how much incredible stuff was in this store. It was getting later in the day and I was running out of time, and also I was running out of money. So I will be coming back fresh in the next weeks or months, armed with money, with a lot more time, so we can dive a lot deeper in, as there is so much stuff to see in this store, and I want to show you folks all of the amazing stuff they have in stock and add some incredible bits into my collection. Speaking of coming back, this is a shop I will definitely be visiting next time I come. Sadly it was closed, but once was new. Looks like an absolutely incredible kind of retro shop. It looks like they have games, toys, everything I need, and I was gutted this shop was closed. but I am excited to be coming back to both of these stores next time we visit Kings Lynn, because I was blown away by how much cool stuff was in here. But I think, folks, we have only just touched the surface, so trust me, in the next few months I will definitely be coming back to Kings Lynn. It was coming close to closing time, and it was time for just one more charity shop, which in the window had these Game Boy Advance games and his copy of Sonic Underground, which I've never heard about, but was 30 quid. So let me know if I should have picked that one up. I was tempted by the games, but again, I was on a bit of a budget. Inside the charity shop, they did have these kind of cool Family Guy crossover Star Wars figures, which were kind of cool, but a little bit overpriced, as well as this amazing gaming headset, which looks like it came straight off Wish. I reckon it must have been around 20 years since I've last seen a Wimpy restaurant. Let me know if you have seen one in the past 20 years. And it seems like it's been about 20 years since I've been into a game store, as I never seem to see any good deals in there. So I was blown away when I saw this copy of Ori the Will of the Wisp for Xbox One, the collector's edition, complete for $9.99. And I did check inside it had all of the contents, and for $9.99 that is an absolute steal. So I guess I should really stop sleeping on game and actually check there for deals, because in the Switch section they also had 2 for $20, and I decided to pick up this Road to Guodong. I don't really know how you pronounce that, but a Switch game for a tenner is an amazing deal, and one which I really didn't want to pass up. It had been an absolutely amazing day in Kings Lynn. I can't believe I've been sleeping on this town for so long. I will definitely be back in the future, and trust me, if you're in the area, I definitely recommend checking out Kings Lynn.
Here we are then, back in the game room, and I have 3 words for you. Star Fox Assault. I have been after this game for the longest time. This is the game that I thought I was going to struggle with the most on the 20 in 2022 game collection, and I could not believe when I walked into that CEX and saw this on the shelf. Sadly, it is not complete, but I'm sure I can go on eBay and get an instruction manual for this one. But I have been wanting to play this game for literally years. Back in the day, I never knew this game existed. I knew there was a Star Fox game, then I knew Lilac Wars came, but I never knew Lilac Wars had a sequel in Star Fox Assault. I have been hammering this game the past week or so. To be fair, I don't like it as much as I expected. I think some of the on-foot bits are a little bit crappy, but the thing is, in my eyes, I think Lilac Wars is one of my favourite games of all time. So if this game even comes close, it's an absolute miracle. So pleased to finally have this in the collection. But of course, that wasn't the only game we picked up this time for the 20 in 2022 Game Challenge. We also managed to pick up Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. And this is a game which I think is going to get harder and harder to get, just because of the licensing laws. Because Marvel is now owned by Disney, as well as them owning half of the free world, this game is going to get harder and harder to get. Probably will not get repressed. The digital copy will probably disappear soon. So if you're a Marvel fan, definitely pick this one up. It is an absolutely amazing game. Again, I'm basically going between this and Star Fox Assault. I'm a few hours into this, and this, my friends, is one of the best Marvel storylines ever. If you are not enjoying the Marvel universe at the moment, check this out. It isn't canon, but it will blow your mind. That's not all I managed to pick up from CEX this time. I also picked up this copy of NBA Courtside 2002. You may be wondering why I'm excited to pick up a basketball game for the Gamecube that is 20 years old. That is because this is an exclusive game to the Gamecube. As we know, Gamecube games only are on the way up value-wise, and as this is exclusive, it might get a little bit more valuable. I know it's not going to go crazy as it is a sports game, but happy to add it to the collection. Here we have our final pickup from that CEX, and shout out to their absolutely incredible selection of Black Label PS1 games. Those games were so incredibly minty. I know CEX are getting a little bit more finicky with their kind of quality control recently, but those games were top level. And a little hack for you folks watching: if you pick up a PlayStation game or any game that has a valuable case, ask them to wrap it in store. Most of the time they are quite happy to wrap it up, and it's a really good way to make sure you get those games home safely. And the thing is, with a game such as Wing Commander 4, I wanted to get this home in as good condition as possible. This thing is in really nice condition. It is fully complete. It has all 4 of the discs. And this is a game I've been looking forward to playing for absolutely ages. I would definitely recommend this one. And for 12 quid, it's a really good price for the PlayStation 1. I'll be the first to admit this time I did spend quite a lot of money in CX. Some of that was trading credit, but I do wish I'd saved a bit more money for Retro Retreat, as I was only able to pick up a few bits from there. But trust me, I will be heading back there in the next few months, as it's one of the best game shops I think I've ever been to. One thing I couldn't leave behind though was this copy of SOCOM Navy SEALs, which is complete with the headset, which is nicely branded, as well as a copy of the game. This is kind of one of those weird big box things which I think is going to get harder to get over the years, and for £3.75, really happy to add this to the collection. This next game was picked up from Retro Retreat by my wife and has a bit of a story behind it. So she's basically been trying to play charades and described to me a game she played on a demo disc over 20 years ago on the PlayStation 1 that she never got to play the full game. We eventually realised this game was MDK. This kind of shows you how important those demos were. This is a game that she never played the full game of in over 20 years and still had the desire to play. This game is complete. It was £7.50, but can you really put a price on memories like that? This for me is what retro gaming is all about, rediscovering games that we never even knew we needed years later. I'm sure a few people may disagree with me on this, but I never seem to find any good deals in-game. So I was really happy when I picked up this Switch game for just £10, Road to Guodong. It should have been 25, was reduced to 10. I don't know very much about this game. My wife has actually sat down and played the entire game, and it is super cool that it comes with kind of some inserts and these little tiny recipe cards. And for £10, I'm very happy to add this to my Switch collection. For me, this was my biggest surprise, picking up this copy of Ori the Will of the Wisps, the collector's edition in-game, pre-owned supposedly, for $9.99. And this thing has everything which should be included. It is absolutely mint condition. And I think for £10, this is an absolute bargain. And I think it's proved to me maybe I do need to go in-game a bit more often. I guess they are having some better deals, so I'll definitely be adding it to my hunting grounds. There we have it then, folks, for another live game hunting episode, and trust me, you do not want to sleep on Kings Lynn. The CEX was amazing, Retro Retreat was amazing, there was other shops that looked absolutely fantastic which I wasn't able to visit, so I will be going back. Trust me, if you're in the area, it's only about an hour from Norwich, definitely head there. And I'll also be definitely hitting up Game again. I think for too long I've slept, and I think there are some good deals to be had. But let me know down in the comments down below. If you disagree this is the best CX of all time, let me know where is the best CX of all time. And also, after visiting Retro Retreat, let me know some good local game shops to you. I'm going to be out and about across the country a lot more next year, so who knows, I might be in a town near you. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.